We begin with appearance of citizens. The policy relative to appearance of citizens is as follows. A 15-minute time period is provided for citizens to appear and express their views before the City Council. Each citizen who appears will be limited to 3 minutes. No immediate response will be given by City Council or City staff members. Citizens are to give their documents to the police officer for distribution to the Council. Is there anyone who wishes to appear before Council tonight?
Good evening, City Council. My name is Mark Erdler. I'm here to address the spectacle put on by Chuck Councal at the end of the 8:30 meeting, where he spent a number of time talking about how none of his decisions were based on influence from outside parties, and basically apologized on behalf of the city for those of us who come here to express our opinions. I just want to remind you, Chuck, that again at the Cannabis Town Hall, you said that you could think of no bigger flat-out rejection of our former sheriff and his foundation than to allow the sale of recreational cannabis. Explain to me how that's not influence. Explain to me how that didn't influence your decision. You can't, because it did. But you're not the only one. The mayor did an interview recently with WILL. What was her first line of defense as to why we shouldn't have cannabis? Guess. Same as you. Now, you also claim that you have such a ancillary relationship with El Jefe and the foundation, right? But I looked through your emails, Chuck, and that's not the case, sir. Not only are you being influenced by them indirectly through the money that they're donating, you're being influenced directly. You're getting information on statistics from them. That's what you're basing your decision on, is biased information. You also made a comment to him about how people were coming here, and to me it really seemed like you were looking for some retaliation or some intimidation with that, by going and tattletaling on citizens for exercising their rights. I have the email, Chuck. You can nod your head if you want to. I'll put it right up on Facebook and I'll tag you. Well, I'll tag you in it, Chuck. Make sure you see it. There's also an email here where you talk to El Jefe, and the two of you lament the fact that some of the illegal Mexicans that are being captured moving cannabis only speak Spanish. Then right here, you two talk about how there's a growing Asian mafia involvement. Why is the city councilman having these conversations? Why are you telling us that you barely know the guy, yet you're involved in these deep conversations with him? It doesn't make any sense. I'm really curious, Chuck. Are you going to have another spectacle tonight after it's over? Are you going to give another apology? I just want to say that if you think sending an email to somebody is going to intimidate me or scare me, look at what all the people in this city have already done to me, targeted me, threatened my life. If you think a lush with a tennis racket is going to scare me, to quote the great Judas Priest, you got another thing coming. I'm Pat McDaniel. Before you send another email talking about how you don't like the way poor people smell, maybe you should lay off the formaldehyde cologne. Thank you.
My name is Jacob Jenkins. Madam Mayor, I rise today because I want the citizens of Decatur to know that their voices matter. Recently, you made a comment about your mind being made up on the cannabis issue, which is really sad because your position and your action is creating a police state here in Decatur. African Americans and other residents who don't hang out at the country club should be enjoying the legalization of marijuana. This is not the case. There is a fear in the air, and understandably so. Your action and this body's directives give our fine members of law enforcement the same narrative that they push during the failed war on drugs. Will you ever stop, or does your position at St. Mary's in the funding department raise an ethical and moral conflict for you? If this is the case, then you should abstain from voting on this subject. It is a real slap in the face to the 52,000 residents that live in Decatur. By Decatur, I mean the township, all right? So it is a slap in the face to them, and that your actions go beyond what I considered a democratic philosophical difference. It amounts to voter suppression. You and others on this council have publicly stated that you will not even consider the people's position. So I submit this thought to you. If the 52,000 residents of the township are representative of Decatur, then neither are the 4,000 people that voted for you. Finally, in the interest of beating a dead horse, I will say, stop balancing our budget on the backs of a billionaire. I am sure, Q-Hole, you will wait to the end of this and praise Buffett, who you claim you have never met, and say that we citizens do not represent Decatur. Thank you.
John Phillips. The old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. The actions of some of you have said many things over the last few months. Those actions say that you do not care about the racial inequities in law enforcement caused by poor policy. And that is not a dig at our law enforcement officers. They're just enforcing the policy they're given. Those actions say you do not care about the greatly disparate impact city policies, taxes, and fees have along racial and economic lines. Those actions say you do not even care enough about the concerns of the people who face the brunt of those inequities to postpone a vote in order to attempt to address those concerns. Those actions say that the city government of Decatur is no longer a government representative of the people, but of the few. Those actions say that most of us speaking to you are wasting our breaths. Finally, those actions say that the city of Decatur is for sale. And that is something that everyone, even those who tried different action, should be ashamed of, including those who voted you into office.
Is there anyone else who wishes to appear before council? Sir, please come down to the podium. And we don't need your address, just your name.
Okay, Honorable Mayor, Council members et al. My name is Dennis Minks. I live in Wilcox Addition, which was recently annexed, much to my dismay. I was here previously. I first attempted to appeal the annexation, was advised to come here. I appeared and complained, and this was all to none avail. I recently received my first water bill since the annexation, and granted, my water rate did decrease, but there were other charges added that are not applicable. I'm being charged for stormwater utility, stormwater ERU, and recycling. Small amounts nonetheless, but they're not applicable. There are no storm sewers, manhole covers, or anything of that nature in my addition. I have a culvert and a ditch for stormwater. I have a septic system. I do not aggressively recycle. These additional charges are akin to being charged monthly for natural gas in an area where natural gas is not available. Why am I being charged for services that I have no access to? My attempted appeal to the water department netted the excuse that the city council voted to inflict these charges, whether you have access to them or not. To add insult to injury, read the annexation. After the recent snow, a city truck plowed my street, as well as 3 feet of my boulevard. There are no curbs in my addition. The plow plowed up huge clods of sod, white rock, and asphalt, which transitions into my driveway, which was hurled into my ditch, gouging the boulevard, butchering it severely. The truck came back and spread copious amounts of salt to contribute to the destruction of my concrete drive. The county did a much better and less intrusive job of clearing and used a less destructive mix of sand and salt instead of heavy doses of salt. Is the city going to correct the destruction of my boulevard and smooth and grade the clods of dirt, rake the rocks, and replace the asphalt that was torn up to the transition of my drive? I think not. I think that's probably going to really fall on me. I remain extremely unhappy with the repercussions of the annexation driven by the request to add numbers for the census and the greed to attain state funds lost via the decline in population due to poor management by state and city. I would relocate if possible, but due to the decline of my property value has been decimated due to all these acts. I'm unable to do so, being retired and pretty much landlocked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meigs. Is there anyone else who wishes to appear before council tonight? Seeing none,